Hello, welcome to Stand Up CLE, or in this case, Sit Down CLE, where we try to be entertaining than the average CLE program, which, as I've told a famous magician once, is the lowest bar anyone has ever had to exceed in entertainment. But speaking of magicians, I'm here with renowned magician, anthropologist, and cybersecurity lecturer, Paul Draper.
Yeah, that's me.
So you actually have an real entertainer here rather than a lawyer pretending to be one. So, Paul, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? And now you claim to be a magician. Can you prove that?
Right. Can I prove the claim? That's good. Okay. We have Kevin. Kevin, you're our cameraman. I'm going to ask you to help me off screen. I have some predictions here. Now, you're not supposed to be drinking at work, but if you had to choose wine, beer, or whiskey, I have the three, and I have a $20 bet on it if I get it wrong. My predictions here. Which one of these, we didn't set this up, did we, Kevin? No, he has no idea. Kevin, if you had to choose wine, beer, or whiskey, you're not LDS, are you, Kevin? No, you are a drinker, yes? Which one is your favorite? Which one?
I'll go with beer.
You'll go with beer. I'm really glad I don't have to lose that $20, because on the back of wine, it says nothing. On the back of whiskey, it says nothing. But on the back of beer, it says, Kevin, I knew you would choose the beer. And so that's the sort of fun stuff that I do in my show, but we'll be doing more magic later and sharing with people and including it in the story.
Yes, exactly. So Paul, before we do that, since we are massively underpaying Paul for this appearance, Paul, at least you can tell us your information of your website and the like, so people want to hire you, they'll know who to go to.
Absolutely. So a lot of law firms hire me to do consulting on things like cybersecurity or on management and leadership issues, or for entertainment for your Christmas party, your company, corporate parties. That pauldraper.com. P-A-U-L-D-R-A-P-E-R, pauldraper.com.
Okay. So Paul, tell us, how is it you got involved in being a cybersecurity lecturer?
Yeah, great question. So during the pandemic, there was this international cybersecurity company that needed somebody to do presentations on Zoom for their huge clients. And they weren't set up to do Zoom presentations, right? It's not something they knew how to do. And so I developed a cybersecurity show for them, a presentation for them. And they taught me a lot of the information that was there as well. I did my own research, and I created this presentation that was often being seen by 10, 15,000 people a day. I did 50 of these a year for multiple years for groups like T-Mobile, the University of California, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Wealth Management, you know, Fortune 100 companies. And beyond that, well, my family started the first internet company in Salt Lake City, Utah. So back in the 90s, I was a very early adopter of internet technology and training and teaching people how to use that. So it's always been part of what I'm interested in. As an anthropologist, I've taught at Yale and SOCA, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Thomas Jefferson Medical. I am an expert in what's called participant observation and ethnography, where I go into a tribe or a society or a culture, I become one with them, learn about them so that I can write their story. And I found that a lot of those same tools can be used for social engineering hacking, and so I've had a lot of groups ask me to come and do demonstrations of their weaknesses in that style of hacking.
Great. Well, we'll get into that. So now the reason we're here and the reason there's cybersecurity presentations are required by many states now is that any organization that uses in any way computer technology and keeps anything important or confidential on there, or just needs the computer technology to keep their company running, which is basically every organization.
Everybody, right?
Is subject to being hacked. And basically there's probably two organizations that exist. Those who have been hacked and those who will be hacked.
And those who have been hacked and don't know it.
And that's right. Yeah. That's true as well. So therefore, that's why we have these presentations. These kind of presentations are now required, and to tell you about it. And Paul, so when you consult with companies, first let's do companies in general, and then we'll get to law firms.
Sure.
What kind of things do you approach them on? What kind of subjects do you cover?
Right. Do you want to do you want me just to launch into ideas or do just topics?
Your choice.
Okay.
Either
So
way, whatever you think
so
is
this is the first thing to understand of all of this is that The only reason you haven't been hacked yet, if you haven't, is because you haven't had information that was important enough yet for someone to want, or you've been really, really lucky. In the same reason that we put on a security system on our home, on our car, we lock our door on our car, is not to prevent someone who really wants our car or wants our home to get in. We do that so that we are less easy to attack than the person next door, right? And so that's a scary thing about security. Why don't we leave our homes open? Why don't we leave our car doors open so that we're slightly more difficult to steal than the car next to us? But if someone really wants our car, they're going to take our car. If someone's targeting our home, they're going to get into our home. That security system isn't enough to protect us. And the same is true of all of our technology.
That's what I point out there. If you're locking your car, what you're really trying to do is get someone to steal somebody else's car.
Right.
Just you know that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's happening.
Right.
And the same is true. We want to make our law firms or our companies so secure that the average random hacker that's just looking for someone random to attack, that we are more difficult than someone else, that we're less fun because it's harder to get into us. And then there are rules to fight against someone that's really targeting us, but that's something different. So here are the first basic things we have to do. We have to have different passwords on every single device. Oh, that's so annoying. But in the same way that we don't want the same key for our car, for our house, and for our safety deposit box and our safe in our basement, we don't want to lose one key and have somebody be able to steal our car, open our garage door from the car, get in through the garage entrance, go downstairs and open up the lockbox with the same key. We want to have multiple paths. And all of these things make it more annoying for us. That means I have to remember multiple passwords. That means I have to carry multiple keys, right? It makes it difficult for us. We want to have our passwords updated regularly, because people are constantly trying to get these passwords. So if they get your password off of your Yahoo Mail or your Facebook page or your LinkedIn, and that's the same password you use everywhere, they're now going to use brute force with those passwords to try them everywhere. And if you're someone who has said, well, it's easier for me just to have one password, that's going to make you very vulnerable to attack. Having multiple ways to verify your passwords in your systems. Also, it takes more time. Oh, it steals my time. I want to just put in my password and get in, or I just want to open my computer and get in. But that means that someone that's coming after you can also just open your computer and get in. So these two double verification authentication tools that make it so you type in your password on your computer and it sends a code to your phone, and then you have to put in that randomized code from your phone. That means you would have to lose both your computer and your phone simultaneously for a hacker to get in that way. So even though it takes more time away from us and it's frustrating as the attorney or the business owner, it's so important to make ourselves less vulnerable.
I think, yeah, that's the thing about all security, I guess, is that unfortunately, the downside of security is more inconvenient. I mean, we all hate having to go through security at an airport, but we have to do it to get through it, but it's as annoying as hell.
Right.
Now, let me ask you this. So beyond about the passwords things, also, what's your recommendations, though, on creating your passwords? Because you can keep changing them, but if you keep changing them, from your son's name to your daughter's name to your grandchild's name, it might be cut. So what clues do you have about how to make sure your password is also something that can't be deducted?
Right. It's so easy when somebody uses a password based on information that's publicly available on the internet. Like you said, their family name, the street they grew up on, any of those things that so many of us in our youth filled out on social media or in the last 30 years that said, what was your first grade teacher's name? What was your first car's name? What is your first? That stuff is still on your social media page. It is still searchable. All of those answers you gave 20 years ago on MySpace, they're still posted there. And if you don't remember it, it's still there. And if you use those things as part of your password, that can make you very vulnerable. So yes, the passwords you want to have uppercase, lowercase, unusual characters, things that are not words, things that are not patterns. If your password is the top row of the keyboard, QWERTY12 or something, or ASDFGH, it's amazing how many people literally use the password. Don't do this, right? You know, we have to use, there are tools out there that will randomly generate passwords. There are tools out there that will securely store our passwords. Even those have some vulnerability to hacking. But over time, these will get better, and your tech people at home that you have at your home office should be able to point you in the direction of the right tools right now to use to make these password generators and these password storage tools. But yes, to have very unusual, unique passwords that do not connect to you as an individual, it will slow down hackers.
You've raised something that does interest me too. I was thinking when you're saying all this is the storage of the passwords, because it's easy, you know, 10 passwords with very unusual things. Okay, I'm not going to be able to remember that in my head.
Right.
No one can remember it in their head. If I write it all down somewhere, then somebody just has to find the piece of paper, or if I put it, God forbid, in the notes on my phone,
right,
again, on my phone, they have all my passwords again.
That's right.
So what's your recommendations of trying to make sure now those passwords are not discoverable by people?
So there are programs out there that encrypt these passwords and store them, and use a double verification process for you to get into it. So you just remember. So you will put in your unique password to open your computer. You will put in your unique password to get on the internet. You will put in your unique password to get into your verification program that then populates the password line on whatever program you're using, but first sends you a randomized code to your phone that you then put into that to authenticate that it's really you, and then you get in. So there are, I don't want to give, you know, there's been different ones at different times
I don't want to
that secure it, but there are tools that hold your password secure. But even those tools, you need to be updating its password regularly. And you need to be watching the news, have an alert on Google. If whatever program you're using, you'll want to put an alert on Google to see if that program has been hacked, and you need to suddenly change all of your passwords everywhere, right? To really keep yourself secure, it's constantly being vigilant.
Unfortunately, it's a whack-a-mole thing, because the cyber bullies out there, cyber infiltrators, are very clever, very smart, and are always looking for ways to overcome or get around any of the new techniques or new technologies.
We have to constantly update our systems. So many people don't want to update their primary operating systems on their computers, but we need to have it be automatically updating all of this stuff. And yes, it takes time to allow it to download those programs and re-upload it, and it may come at a disadvantageous time for you to want to restart your computer and take the 30 minutes to do that. But by keeping these programs up to date, we allow ourselves another layer of protection, like putting the wall around the Citadel. If they say to you, wait, the Citadel walls have been breached, there's a hole in them, and we say, well, I don't have time for that, you know, then all these people are streaming in. So yes, not only do we have to constantly update our passwords, we have to constantly update the tech on our computers and our phones and devices. I bet most of us, if we looked at our phones or our computers right now, if our system preferences don't have automatic updates running constantly, we might be 6 months, a year, 2 years behind and running a very vulnerable program.
Do you offer a recommendation, not asking for any particular programs, but I have heard that the two-factor authorization that you mentioned, authentication, where you get a text, that some people think is actually those, even to text to your phone, aren't as secure as maybe some third-party apps that send. Is that your experience too?
Right. So a text to your phone, I mean, there are all sorts of places that you can be not secure. You know, some people prefer a phone call to your phone. Some people prefer that it gets sent to a different device. Yeah. Some people prefer that it's some sort of randomization. So there's all. I mean, the technology is going to constantly change. But the key of it is that it's not just the information isn't just stored with one device, that it's your, because you can have them also call, so like I'm teaching at this Soka University, a Buddhist university, and they don't send it to my text phone, they send it to a phone call to my office phone in my office that can only be picked up if you are in your office on campus, that nobody else can, tune into and listen into. And so when I'm in my office, on my office computer, it calls my office phone and the voice tells me something. But even that, I mean, it's a hardline phone. There are devices you can get at the spy shop in Las Vegas, put next to the phone line coming into the office, and pick up what's heard on it, right? So there's just all this information. Nothing is going to be 100% secure, but we are working to get closer.
And then there's always people out there working to make sure whatever's 100% secure won't be 100% secure tomorrow.
That's right.
But those are all important things to do. Now, all of this, I'm sure, sounds horrible and terrible to lawyers, but that's the real point of this. You need to hire really good tech people, because we can't expect you, as a lawyer out there, to know or be able to implement most of this stuff. You need good tech people at your law firms, even when you're small and tiny. Hire some people, really trustworthy, good tech people who can implement all these things for you to set up, because you're not going to be able to do it on your own unless you're like the rare lawyer who's a real tech genius.
But you have to know enough to be able to manage those people. Yeah. Where lawyers get in a lot of trouble is where they hire a tech person who says, don't worry, for this amount of money, I'll make you 100% secure. Well, the second they've said that, they're lying to you, right? I mean, we need to know enough to be able to manage these people and know enough that it's not, we don't just put the lock on the door and walk away and it's good enough. That has to be constantly massaged and managed. And so yes, like I come into companies and consult to say, this is the current situation, these are the things that need to change, but you're the ones that are going to need to do that. Let me teach you how. But this is something that if you're a small law firm and you don't have a dedicated team, you need to have consultants coming in and doing this regularly.
So besides passwords, which we're going to what other items have you generally talked to companies about that they need to worry about in protection? Yeah,
so there are different ways that we say, am I going to try and make I'll get to social engineering later, which is a big topic, but how secure am I going to be? How far am I going to take this, right? So if you're one of the ABC companies, right, you're the CIA, you're the FBI, their solution is they have 2 separate computers on every desk. One that's hooked up to the internet and one that's not. And all of the secure information is on the computer that is not and never will be connected to the internet or the phone or anything. So if you need to move something from this computer to that computer, you have to physically put in your USB port, pull it out, put it into the other computer. So that's another level of security, is something that is never attached to USB, never attached to the internet, never attached to any of those things, and is only moved physically in that way.
Now, for most lawyers, that's not practical, but I can see a lawyer, though, sometimes having some sort of case or matter or client who is so sensitive, their stuff is so important, has to be kept, that maybe you could even go that far.
This is like having an evidence room. Most law firms have an evidence room, right? That you have your secured room or your secured space. Because if you don't, it's like leaving your door to your law office open, the door to your personal office open, the door to your file drawer open.
And we will talk about that because Paul's experienced it. Yeah, you do all this. But we'll be getting to that. That's a tease.
Yeah.
But beyond that high level, what kind of security thing? If a normal sort of security, you're not the CIA.
Right.
What other things do you recommend to talk about?
I think I want to talk about. I want to talk about being vigilant against the constant barrage of people that could be coming for us, right? Depending upon what the information is and how valuable that information is. Some people are trying to hack us just because it's fun. Just because it's fun, who can I hack, who can I get into? It's amazing the number of hacks that I see are just hackers doing it for fun. I saw this commercial for this law firm, wouldn't it be fun if I could break into their system and poke around? The second one are the ones that are more dangerous. They're looking for money. right? They're sending ransomware. They're sending information out there to try and say, I'm going to hold your information, or I'm going to make your information public if you don't pay me.
And by the way, you out there may think, oh, what's the big deal? Law firms, people really want that. There was a survey recently taken that showed 25% of law firms surveyed said they had been hacked. And as Paul said, they're probably more than that because the other ones just don't know.
They just don't know. And because if you don't have ways that are alerting you to hackers, if you don't have tools set up in your computer that alert you in the same way that an alarm system would alert you if someone broke into your house, how do you know? So you might be hacked by one of these joyriders and not know it. But the ransomware hackers come after you. And the way to set up for that is, what is your plan? Do you have a plan in action ready for when it happens? We have a plan for if somebody gets cut in the office. We have our first aid kit, right? We have a plan if the building's on fire. We have a plan if there's a flood or a hurricane. We have plans for these things. But most of us don't have plans for what happens if we get hacked. Do we have everything backed up multiple times a day, every day, so that if we get alerted that someone's hacked into our computers, we can shut everything down, pull every plug, wipe every computer, and we are safe to reboot from before we were hacked, so that everything's safe and good again? If we're not, well, that's another vulnerability. Do our people know, don't click on random stuff? Right? Because if somebody sends you something with an attachment, it might be your buddy sending you a funny meme, it might be your friend sending you a funny video, but whenever anybody sends me anything that I am not prepared to receive, they haven't said to me, tomorrow I'm going to send you this file, they haven't called me or emailed me separately, it's not something I'm expecting, I don't open that thing. Don't open it. You don't know what that is, and your buddy might be hacked right now. All over social media, there's a big thing going right now, and it's different every month. But right now, I've had at least 15 or 20 of my 5,000 Facebook followers that have been hacked recently, and I get messages from them saying, hey, I've just won this competition, but in order to get to the main prize, I need 15 people to vote for me. Will you click here and vote for me? It'll just take 10 seconds. And it's coming from my friend, from my friend's account. And then they write a few minutes later, are you mad at me? And so they're trying to emotionally appeal to me. Why aren't you voting? This will just take 10 seconds. I've helped you so much in our lives, right? And they're sending these emotional appeals that feel very real. And I have to call my friends and say, is this you? Right? Because they're being hacked. Or another time, another thing going on right now, big in the email world, is it looks like it comes from your friend, but it doesn't actually come from their email. So my email is paul@pauldraper.com. So it might say, from Paul Draper, but then if you click on my name, Paul Draper, it says the email is asdf12@gmail.com. So even though it says it's from Paul Draper, it's not from my email address. So we have to check and see, just because it says it's from your friend or it's from someone you know, we have to check to see if that's actually from their email. It may not be. And if we click on something, the old Dracula stories is that Dracula can't come into your home unless you invite him in. So he comes up to the door and says, can I come in? I'm a poor stranger. It's raining. I'm hungry. And if you invite him in the threshold, it's over. And so many of us are clicking that button and inviting the monster over the threshold.
A firm I've worked for, one of the things that you do is every now and then their tech people would actually send to people at the firm, a message that was not a phishing message, but was their sample one,
right,
and see how many people clicked on it, and then they clicked on it, they said to you, you clicked on that, you shouldn't be clicking on it.
Right.
So is that kind of a procedure you recommend?
That's right. That's the sort of procedure, one, that lets tech companies charge you, but it verifies that they're doing their job. But second, it keeps your team vigilant. It keeps your team skeptical. They have to constantly be skeptical of all of this information. In the same way that if an envelope showed up with powder inside of it, we have a response that this may be dangerous, right? We are skeptical of this. If it's something ticking, we don't open it, right? But in the same way, we have to be skeptical of anything that wants us to click. One thing you brought up to me is things that say on social media, can I have access to your contacts? And everything is doing this right now. Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and everything is asking, can I have access to your contacts? Well, if you say yes to that, that now means all of your clients, their birthdays, their photographs, any notes you've put about them in your phone, any of that information that you don't even remember you put in there, is now available to that company and anybody who that company sells that information to.
So you're a smaller law firm, one that can't afford to have this whole huge big in-firm tech people. What would you recommend those?Ey're going to have to hire outside tech people.
Consultant, a tech person.
So
yeah.
What do you recommend of all the law firm like that does to, or independent lawyer does to try and make sure they got a good one?
Right. I mean, it's the same. It's the same as all things, because there isn't really a PhD in being a cybersecurity expert. It needs to be somebody who you can communicate with, somebody who's a constant learner. Get a sense that somebody that's engaged and interested in continuous improvement, in learning and growing as a person. Make sure that they're not someone that's just tech babbling at you, because a lot of fake tech people will tech babble at you to intimidate you. To make you think that they're doing a good job when they're just, it can't be done, Captain, right? I can't, impossible to do in this amount of time. No, you want somebody who can break it down into understandable language, into actionable tasks, somebody that's going to partner with you and work with you on this. Now, there are big companies out here that do this, but you don't need a big company. You need, if you're a small law firm, you can hire an individual who's just very fastidious and very, very great, has great specificity and consistency in keeping these things clean. It's most of this stuff, unless we're doing things like, now I need to build honeypots within my system to catch hackers, right? Unless you're doing some high level of tech, you just need somebody who's reliable and consistent. And
I imagine word of mouth is a big deal.
Word of mouth.
Check around, ask other lawyers who have hired people, have they hired them and what kind of success they've had.
Yeah. I mean, if people reach out to me, I can point you to some companies, but again, that's not my main thing. Right. So now I want to talk about, we've talked a little bit about passwords, about keeping your software updated, keeping your hardware up to date, because older computers are easier to hack. The newer ones.
Keeping the minds of your employees up to date
right.
about not accepting, opening up emails you shouldn't open up, etc.
Right, so that you're avoiding those viruses, right. Keeping yourself skeptical of that information, accepting that nothing will be 100% secure. One of the things with hardware there was a law firm I had worked with that had purchased these computers that even if the computer was stolen, someone couldn't get into it because the computer had a special chip in it that kept things secure if the computer was off property, right? They had it was a hardware solution. And so nothing with its own proprietary coding system, so that nothing from an outside software source could hack into it. So suddenly these lawyers were very cavalier with their devices because they knew no software could hack it. You had to have the device and it had to be near the office and it couldn't be hacked into. Nothing.
100% secure.
100%
no
secure.
Doubt.
And a lawyer left his laptop at a restaurant. And somebody that was a private investigator that was chasing this lawyer to try and get their information, grabbed this laptop, opened up the computer, scraped away the top of the chip so that they could get access to the silicon, and they were able to hack into everything. So nothing, there's nothing will ever be 100%. We're just doing, so don't become cavalier because someone's told you it's been. Now I want to get into some of the scarier stuff that I'm particularly good at, which is the social engineering.
Okay. Before I do that, though, wait.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I got a text, and I don't know why, because no one knows we're doing this.
Uh-oh.
That says they don't actually believe you're just one magic trick. Anybody do one magic
Sure.
trick? Can you do another one?
Let's do a couple real quick. This is called the Jastro illusion, and it's cute. You can do it with your kids. I have a little dog. His name's Oscar, right there, and you can see he is much bigger than his little sister Vienna. Get it? Oscar and Vienna, the sausage dogs right there. He's much bigger than her, but if she goes for a stretch, Vienna, now she's much bigger than her little brother Oscar. What happened? Now if Oscar goes for a little stretch, not a big one, stretch, now he's almost as big as Vienna again, but she's still a nose bigger, or toes and tails bigger right there. But if he goes for a big stretch, now he's bigger than Vienna once again. So this is a mathematical principle called the Jastro illusion. You can do this with your Starbucks coffee, the little piece of paper that goes around it to keep your hands safe, because it has that little rainbow arc right there, where if you put it under, it will look, if you put it under, it will look bigger, but if you put it over, it'll look smaller, just like that. And that's just using those rainbow arches. Yet it's really deceptive to the mind. If you write me at paul@pauldraper.com and you want me to send you this by email, I will, and you can print it out and do it at home, but you can do it with anything. Here, let's do something more psychic-y, I'm gonna have our cameraman help me again, because they don't trust you, Mark. They don't trust you.
As they shouldn't, I'm aware.
That's right. Here, Kevin, will you help me?
Sure.
I have some squares, some pluses, some bacon, some circles, and some stars. These are the same symbols Bill Murray used on Ghostbusters to test psychics. The way it works is, if you get it right, you're a psychic. If you get it wrong, I put electrodes under Mark's chair. He's going to receive a horrible electric shock. Okay, do you want...
Come through for me, Kevin. Come through.
Do you want the pile my hand is over, or do you want to be rude and take the other one?
I'll do the hand.
The hand, that's your pile. Okay, I'm going to mix up mine. Kevin, you have 5 symbols to choose from. Square, plus, wavy, star, and circle. Which one do you think that one is?
Star.
Star. Perfect. I'm going to mix them up. Kevin, say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
Right there. What do you think that one is? I didn't even look at it.
Plus.
Plus. Excellent. We'll do it again.
Stop.
Right there. What's that one?
Square.
Square. Last choice, then the final 2 have to match.
Circle.
Circle. Do you want to change your mind?
Nope.
Happy with the mind you have?
Yes.
Okay, so look, you said wavy, circle, square, plus star. Wavy, circle, square, plus star. Now, Kevin made every single choice. I put mine down first every time. Yet you got the wavy, the circle, the square, the pluses, and the star. Kevin, how did you know? You can't see, he's smiling, he's delighted.
So he really is a magician, folks.
But
he does more.
If you keep watching, I'm going to do some metal bending in a minute. That's fine. Okay.
All right, so social engineering. First, why don't you define for us, what is social engineering?
Right, so social engineering is where instead of using code or building in silicon or building in electronics, engineering through technology, you're engineering using social skills. You're breaking and you're hacking into somebody's system using social skills. And
that reminds me of a movie I saw years ago with Peter Falk, I think, and I can't remember who else it was. And they wanted to break into a vault, and the way they did it was, he says, I don't break into the vault, I break into the person.
That's right.
All I do is outsmart the person, and all the security systems didn't matter.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And this is a core problem. In the same way that if you have an angry employee who leaves or is fired angry, and you don't change all the passwords and don't change all the keys, you are really vulnerable to that angry employee. And you're also vulnerable to all their friends and family members who might be mad at you, right? So when you release somebody, all of that stuff needs to be changed right now, because that is a huge gaping hole in your wall and in your system. But social engineering hacking is particularly effective against law firms and against people that are social human beings.
Well, actually, lawyers are not very social. So
Yeah.
it really shouldn't be a problem.
No, they're social, they're friendly, they're people. And the executive assistants and the paralegals and all of these other people, who many of them are people. and not tech people or tech phobic. So one of the ways we're often taught that these social engineering hacks start is if we make it public, somewhere what tech company we're using, or we allow that tech company to write publicly, I'm supporting such and such law firm. Well, that's a danger now, because now I can go online and I can look up that tech company's branding, and I can look at their social media page, and I can see what kind of shirt they wear when they show up, and I can go to an online shirt printer and I can print that exact same shirt, and I can show up at your office and your secretary or executive assistant has seen that tech company in that shirt, knows that that's your company's tech company, and now any human being who happens to have that shirt has access to your office.
Oh, come on, Paul, you say that, but I mean, have you ever actually seen that happen?
I have personally done this.
Oh, you have?
Yes, I have.
We didn't set this up in
No. But this is, sometimes those executive assistants are difficult to get through. But most of the time, your security guard on the main floor, they don't ask for ID or password. They see the shirt, you point at it, you nod at each other knowingly, and they let you in.
So tell us the story of what you did.
So this is one I did recently. I've done a couple of different ways of doing this, but this is one of my favorite ways in, is you come late at night and you wait until the cleaning crew is in. And when the cleaning crew is in, you show up confidently to them and you say, hi, I showed up confidently, I said, hi, I'm with the tech team, I need to go upstairs and get a couple of USB drives that I left in my office, I'll be just a minute. And the cleaning crew said, okay. And I went up with them and I got in the elevator and I went upstairs and I said, yeah, my office is just around the corner here. And sometimes these offices, now I've also done this in homes. I look on Zillow first to the last time the home was sold, and I can see a walkthrough of the house and know where all the rooms are and whatever. But I say, yeah, it's just around this corner here and I'll be just a minute. And so for this tech company that hired me to test their own security, I videotaped myself walking into each of the partners' offices with a USB drive, touching it to the computer, walked to the next room, touched it to the computer, walked to the next room, touched it to the computer, put it in my pocket, thanked the cleaning person and left. Now, that didn't alert anything. Now, if the partners somehow knew someone had come and broken into their system. Now there are tools you can get on your computer to let you know what time of day your computer was turned on, that will give you an alert at home if your computer is turned on in an hour that's not part of your office hours. But most of us don't have those on our computer. We don't have a security system on our computer. We believe the lock on the front door and the security guard are enough. Now, if somebody somehow knew, well, then they could backtrack and look at the security cameras and see me, and they'd see my face, and they could hunt me down and find me and prosecute me for doing this. But I've already gotten this information and had it for how many days?
And if you have that system, you said, to tell people that someone's logged on, you don't have to rely on that. First, better to have security, make sure you can't get in the first place.
Make sure you can't get in the first place. And this is, again, making security more skeptical of who's allowed in and out. The problem with that, like we talked about at the very start, the problem with that is that makes it more difficult for people who are supposed to get in, but it also makes it more difficult for people who are not supposed to get in. And that's something we have to weigh and balance.
Well, I think you're really, all security has the same problem. That is 99% of the time is not needed. So
right.
People get used to not needing it. Oh,
right.
let it go by, and because most of the time it's wasted.
Right.
And so it's so hard to get people to be vigilant all the time because it's so rarely needed. But
now,
one time it happens, though, you're all set.
Your security, wherever you're at, is probably really good at stopping some alcohol-induced hoodlum from throwing a rock through your window, coming in, grabbing your computer, and running down the street with it. But your system is not good at stopping a targeted social engineering hacker from coming in and getting the information they want. So in each of those offices, let's say their computer was more secure, but they hadn't locked their filing cabinets. They had their dockets and paperwork right on the table. I went into one law firm that their genius, a lot of big law firms has the one genius who knows all the laws, right? And everything he had was stacked in piles in his office. And his door wasn't locked because he assumed that the office was secure and safe. Well, I could have taken photos, taken objects, so it's about deciding how secure you want to be. Let's take this a step further. If I call these, a lot of the times, you can do it without your face being seen. You buy yourself a burner phone. A social engineer buys themselves a burner phone. Thinking about social engineering is different from thinking about making your stuff secure. Most of these cybersecurity companies, they're thinking about how can I make it secure. They're not thinking about how could I break through that security. So it's a different way of thinking. So I think about how could I break through the security. This is a real powerful way that I've done a lot of times as a test that's very painful for companies. So I call the executive assistant and I say, hi, I'm with such and such cybersecurity team. I work with your partner so-and-so. I got the information of who the partner was off of, the web page. I read their bio. I looked at their Facebook page and saw they were on vacation this week, right? So I know information that they don't know I know. And I call and say, so-and-so told me while they're on vacation in the Bahamas with their family that I needed to come in and update their computer. But I can do it remotely. I've sent you an email to XYZ email address. What is your phone number? I'm also going to text you a verification just to make sure it's really you. And if you could send that code back to me that comes to my phone, and I just text that executive assistant a random number. And they say, okay, did you receive it? And they give me the number back. I say, great, because that number won't work 30 seconds from now, and make sure not to share that with anybody. Okay, you should receive an email from me now. I need you to click on this, and this is going to give me remote access to your computer to allow me to update your system. It'll just take a couple of minutes. And 9 out of 10 times, that will work at any hospital, law firm, executive office, because it's so believable. Oh yeah, I was talking to John Johnson and his son has a race this week and they're off in, Des Moines. He said, while they're away, do this. Well, that executive assistant isn't going to call the partner and check and make sure most of the time. I've given enough information that it feels credible, that I was able to pull off of social media, that it's believable that I know that. How could he know? It's believable I know the person. I am working for the company that they usually use. All of this stuff is believable. And if you haven't taught your teams to be skeptical, then you are really vulnerable, not to the random hack, but to somebody that's going after you.
So you're trying to tell us is that while technology is important, in many ways the biggest weakness is still the people.
It's still the people. One of the main tools I use in my cybersecurity trainings is to teach people what information is available about them on the internet that they're not aware of. The other day I was doing this with a major Fortune 100 company, and there was an individual that I was able to tell her at 2 o'clock today you were looking at a lake off to the left of you, and your son was in Mr. Clark's class, and your home address is this, and your safe is in that room, and this painting is on your wall, and your towels in your bathroom are these colors. And she began to shake and sweat. She was afraid that I was in her house at 2 o'clock. How could you know this information? Well, 3 or 4 years ago, she had posted that every day she did the same run from this time to this time. So I knew where she was every day. and where she ran. And I could get on Google Maps and see it. I was able to see the house that she was in and see on Zillow past pictures of the house. I was able, through her name search, to see a past house she had been in, or her voting records, and see a past house she was in. And I was able to, and you don't have to have special tools for this. Anybody can do it on Google. And I was able to do a walkthrough of her past house, see the colors of her towels, the paintings on the walls, assume those are in the new house that I've seen pictures of. She posted a picture of her son holding a chalkboard, Mrs. Clark's class, such and such a school, whatever. I have all this information that's really scary and dangerous about this person that could be used.
And how long did it take you to find this?
10 minutes. So when I do this, my game with myself is I set a timer for 10 minutes and say, what can I find out about a person in 10 minutes or less?
Anything else on social engineering you might want to look?
Yeah, so here's another one with a house example. So that I used as a social engineer. I just think giving these pieces is interesting to people.
Yes.
to know where you're vulnerable. So I was, again, and this is if you're targeting an individual, not just random. Most of us are safe because nobody's targeting us, right? Most of us are safe because of that, because we're not doing anything interesting enough.
But for lawyers, you could be in a high-profile case where your name is out there. Nowadays, cases are more political than ever. People are more invested than ever.
Right.
The people on social media are more invested than ever. If your name is out in a case that you're in a big profile case, you could be somebody targeted.
Yeah.
They want to get leverage on you, maybe have you not represent the client as well as you want to represent them, et cetera. So.
Look, I was hired by J.J. Abrams to do his Christmas party once. I was hired by Dick Van Dyke to do his birthday party once. I was harassed by these journalists for weeks after each of these events, trying to get me to give them information about these celebrities. And they pretended to be my friend and get me jobs and work. If I was an unscrupulous person, there was all sorts of access I had to these celebrities' homes that I could have given away, right? But instead, I care about people's security so passionately, right, that I'm the right guy for this. But so I had another thing that I do, and I'm going to do two more on this particular issue. So I had the CIO of multi-billion-dollar internationally traded company that his information was so secure online. He didn't have social media profiles. He didn't have anything about himself anywhere. He didn't have a LinkedIn page. He was so secure. And I was getting to the end of my 10 minutes. And again, this is information I get in 10 minutes. If I'm really targeting someone for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, but 10 minutes. I'm getting to my end of my 10 minutes and I'm not finding anything. I finally found an obituary. And the obituary was for his mother. And it listed his name, his spouse's name, his kid's name, his siblings' names. Oh, now I go to his spouse's social media page. And on that social media page, there's one photo on her social media page where one of the kids says, "I'm proud of you, Mom." Right? So now I have access to the kids' social media pages because now I know who the kids are. And now there's this endless amount of information where they've taken photos inside their home, photos inside the office, photos inside the company party. All of this information is now just streaming access to me, even though the individual was safe. So we not only need to know if we're safe or not, but know those around us. Another one was somebody recently got married, and the son-in-law had very open social media. But this is a house instance. I was told I need you there to go and make sure that this house is secure. And I said, so from the outside, something I mentioned earlier, you can bug somebody's phone. It's illegal, but there are ways to do it. There are ways to get devices to listen at a distance, right, to amplify sound at a distance. But is there a way, are we really safe to have a conversation in this house? Because we're having a lot of high-level meetings inside this partner's home. So I showed up to the home. I did search on Zillow again and searched the home, when it was last sold, looked through all the pictures, looked at all the windows, did Google Maps searches. You can put on Google Maps that you want your house to be made invisible, right? But most people don't do that. Because from those Google searches, I can know what car you drive, I can know what car your partner drives, I can know, the last time you trimmed your hedges, right? But I got all that information, and I went to the house, and I went and knocked on the door, and I said to the man that answered, I said, because it was the wife that was the attorney, I said, when I was a little boy, I grew up in this house, and my room was the room up on the 3rd floor, the one with the slanted ceiling. Is that still a bedroom? And he said, yes, it is. I said, oh, I haven't been here. I've been living in California for the last 20 years. I haven't been here in 30 years. There was a tree out the backyard that I had a swing on. Is that tree still there? I could see it right out the window. And he said, yes. And I said, oh, it'd mean so much to me if I could go back up to my childhood room and just see it for a minute. Is that okay? And he sized me up. He looked at me and said, oh, he seems like an honest, nice guy, and he doesn't have a weapon on him. I could take him, right? The guy thinks,
didn't know you're a magician.
He didn't know I was a magician. And he said, sure, come on up. And I said, oh, this is so wonderful, thank you. Can I take a couple of photos of out the window? Sure, right? And I took a couple photos out the window. And in those moments when I'm there, oh, and look at this and look at that, I misdirected him to look wherever I wanted. I could have bugged the room. I could have left anything I wanted in that room that could have sent through a USB RF, sent invisible RF frequencies or anything to a device outside a block away that I could have collected information. In the room, I was able to see it was a kid's room, the kids' names, photos of them, where they went to school, all that dangerous information. And so the only way to prevent ourselves being hurt, and it's a good thing that I don't do this for evil, but I've met the people who do, and I've met lots of them and interviewed them, and it's important to just be skeptical that these days, when I was a little boy, if someone rang the doorbell, we all fought to run to the door and see who it was, who's here to visit us. We would give them food and water and whatever. I've unhooked the doorbell at my house. If somebody rings my doorbell, I don't want to talk to that person. If somebody's coming to my house, they've texted me and I know them and I'm waiting for them. If some stranger approaches me, I don't know them. If somebody sends me mail that I'm not expecting, I either don't open it, put return to sender. As a celebrity magician, I get a lot of strange fan stuff where people send me food and send me products, and I just throw it straight in the trash. I don't even open this stuff because I don't know what it is. And I know that sounds very strange, but from the things I've seen, I think it's better to be skeptical.
Yeah, I'll say now, obviously that's not a practical way of life for a lot of people to live,
yeah,
and not put anything on social media. But I think this means you have to weigh the costs and benefits of what's going on. If you're not, if you have a normal practice of law, nothing especially big and important, you can live your life. But if you're going to be perhaps in something that's very significant, high stakes, you might have a lot of information that would be very valuable to people outside, then a lot of things Paul's talking about, you're going to have to worry more about. You might have to trim back your social media or just tell everybody to be a lot more skeptical and a lot more secure, because they can find many ways to break in, and the vulnerability might be you or people who work with you.
If you're going to have social media, and I do, if you search for me, I have a very big social media. You have to be aware of what is on social media. You have to be aware of what you posted a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and what's still out there. And not, and if somebody knows things about you that only a friend would know, don't assume they're a friend. This is a bit of cognitive anthropology, real quick. Is our brain? There was a physical anthropologist named Robin Dunbar who came up with something called the Dunbar number, and he said our brain can only hold about 3,000 to 5,000 people. That's everybody. That includes if we know Tom Cruise and if we know, heard of them on a TV show, right? If we've heard of Jeff Goldblum, he's one of our 5,000 people.
To me, it's by 3 to 5 people.
Right. But every person, every president we've ever heard of. Right. But that's why when we go back to a high school reunion, there are people who remember us that we don't remember because we've replaced them. We've replaced them with other people as part of our 5,000, but they haven't replaced us. We're still in their 5,000, though they're not in ours. And so...
A lot of people want to replace me.
Right. But so sometimes people will come up to you and say, hey, you remember me? It's Ned Ryerson. You're Groundhog's Day. You remember we were friends. And our immediate response is, oh yeah, I remember you. And if they say, we were in Miss Johnson's class, oh yeah, and you were into hockey, I still am. Then suddenly we let all of our guard down and we believe that this person is a friend that we just don't remember, and we give them any information they want about ourselves. Oh, but today, people can find all that information on social media and can pretend to be that person, knowing that we will react in that way and that they will allow themselves to be much more vulnerable around us with a false connection. And so having healthy skepticism is important.
And we're back with magician, anthropologist, cybersecurity expert, and just all about man around the town, Paul Draper.
Okay.
And Paul, again, people are still asking for proof of magic. So
okay, good. So this is something I do a lot on television. I'll share it here so you can see it too. I have 2 metal spoons, solid spoons. They're metal, they're solid. These are heavier duty metal than you'd get at an IHOP or a Denny's, right? These are not teaspoons, they're serving spoons. Check them out, make sure they're metal there as they appear to be.
Totally as
right? They don't heat up in your hand when you touch them. They nest together perfectly right there. One of them is going to bend. Which one, Mark?
That one's
okay, watch. Just give it a shake back and forth, just like this, just a little bit, not a lot. It just starts to bend, very little. You can tell right there, just a slight bend. I place one hand on top of mine, one underneath. Put one on top, one underneath, put your hands on mine.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to bend in between our hands. Do you see it bending?
Oh, my God, yes, I do. Look at that.
I don't know if you can tell. There's now just a slight difference between those. I'll put my hands on top, watch, blow, keep going, keep going, keep going. There it goes. Oh. There it goes. Stop, stop, stop. A lot of people think that I take and put pressure on it, right, when no one's looking. So this time I won't touch it. It just bends straight down. Can you see that in the camera there, Kevin? Did it bend straight down? Isn't that strange? Just like this. It just bends straight down, right? There's nowhere that's dug into my hand, nowhere it's dug into my flesh. With enough strength, you can take and straighten it out. But only in the movies can you get to do this, where the metal on its own twists and turns like a corkscrew. That's changed at a crystalline level, fractured and splintered inside. It'll never be straight again, but you can still stir your drinks, eat your cereal. That's yours now. You keep it off screen. But I did that for UFC fighting champion Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah.
And she said to me, that makes me so mad I want to throw you. And I said, after your last professional fight, that ain't happening. And then she threw me. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, now on YouTube forever.
Oh,
so
I'll check it out.
So a couple of things to share now. I wanted to talk about metadata, because this is something that big law firms know about, but a lot of smaller law firms I found don't know about, is that there is hidden information within every photograph you take, within every document you write. There is hidden information stored in that stuff. And so if you take a photo on your phone and you don't have the settings set up right, it will tell me what day you took that photo, what your location was when you took that photo, right? It will tell me maybe what other photos were taken given the setting right before or right after. And that all may be hidden within that photograph. I had a lawyer once who was being a bad boy who sent me a document and said he had put in so many hours of work in this document. And I was able to go into the metadata and see when he put the document in as a boilerplate piece, that the piece had been written years ago, that he had only changed a few sentences in it. So here he tried to charge me for multiple hours when he'd only spent a few minutes on it. And he didn't know that that information was hidden in the document. And so someone can be a mind reader in our Word documents or other documents that we write, and they can see where we've gone back and forth on certain words or changed certain sentences or ideas. And in doing that, they're able to know our thinking process on our journey on this topic and able to find our vulnerabilities. In photographs, knowing if the photo was actually taken on the day we said it was taken, or where we said it was taken, when we said it was taken, who it was taken by, right? What device it was taken on. And so there's all this data within this stuff that if we don't do things like taking our Word document and then changing it over into a PDF before we send it out, or stripping, having tools to strip what's called metadata off of this information, we may be sending people more information than we want them to receive. So I did want to cover that.
Great.
Another piece with any of these cybersecurity companies that you hire, and I don't want to get into the weeds of the tech of this or the specifics of it, but you're going to want them to set up what's called a firewall. You're going to want them to set up a spam filter. You're going to want them to set up a junk folder. You are going to want to routinely check and see what goes into the spam folder and junk folder, because you will constantly need to massage that to make sure that data you don't actually want isn't going in there. Too many law firms get angry that data they wanted went to their junk folder or spam filter, so they make their junk and spam weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, where really what they should do is make it stronger and check that folder as well. Right? And so we want to make it stronger and constantly update it. They're going to, we put a couple of notes down here. We're going to want to make a schedule to back up our systems, a schedule to back up. So we have hardware, which is the computers and the phones themselves, and there's the software, the programs on the computers and phones. And those are different systems that will need to be routinely backed up and checked. Like a lock that we put on a fence. A lock has so many pins in it. You know, like if I have a key, it has my ups and downs, right? And that lets me know how many pins are in the lock. A gumball machine has one pin. So with a paper clip, I can open that gumball machine. But most of us have a 6-pin lock on our door at our house, which means that it's going to take a lock pick guy or gal or somebody who knows how to pick a lock 4 minutes, 5 minutes to open that. And that's the level of security we give our home and all of our possessions, is that an average person can't just open it. Someone would need to spend 5 minutes, right? And that's what we're doing. We're doing all of these things so that, one, the random drunk person doesn't get us, and two, that if we are targeted, it takes them longer, and three, that if we are targeted, that we have a way to catch them, and four, that if we are targeted, we have a plan set to recover from what happens after we've been targeted. So much of that is built into these things.
So, Paul, before we leave, do you have any last things you might like to show us?
Yeah! Let's do another magic trick. Why not? So every magician has to have a deck of playing cards.
It's the law.
It's the law. That's right. So I have a deck of bicycle playing cards. All the cards are here. All of them different. Give it a mix or two. I'll have Kevin help me again. Kevin, I have a full deck of playing cards right there. Just memorize all of them in the order they're in. Got it? Perfect. Yeah. Kevin, name any playing card.
King of Hearts.
King of Hearts. And when I spread out the cards just a minute ago, Kevin, did you see exactly where the King of Hearts was?
I did not.
You did not, okay. You need to be a psychic. Anytime you want, say stop.
Stop.
Right there. Right there?
Yeah.
Or back up or down further?
Right there is perfect.
Right there. Okay, I'm going to tweeze out the card exactly where you said stop. Now look, you could have stopped up here. You could have stopped down here, or down here, or down here, or down here, or down here. You could have chosen any of those cards. You could have named any card, is that right? Yeah. You could have named any one of these, but you named the King of Hearts. And you could have stopped anywhere, right? And that was the King of Hearts. What do you think of that, Kevin?
Great.
That's great. You like that? So that's the fun thing is that ability. Just take your fingers like this. If you would, just grab one, grab one, grab one, grab one. Right. Okay, he could take any card, but one did he take? Of course. And people always say, "Is that a full deck of King of Hearts?" No. Did I know ahead of time you would choose the King of Hearts? No. Of course not. A game that you should never play for money. You'll see them play this sometimes in front of the casinos in Las Vegas, which is so funny to me because you could go inside and be cheated legitimately, right? But people play this inside the casinos with 3 cards called 3-card money, and they use 3 cards in the game. I've seen it in London, I've seen it in New Orleans, I've seen it in Vegas. There's a joker, there's another joker, and the final card, that all-powerful card, the Ace of Spades. You find the Ace of Spades wherever it is. Right now, the Ace of Spades is on the bottom, right on top of those jokers. So the second someone turns and looks away to grab their wallet to bet, then I start the move. When they look back up, I then complete the move. And I say, okay, bet your money, and they'll bet more than they would have bet. Why? Because they saw something they didn't think they should have seen. And so they'll bet more because they're confident. And they say, I know where that ace is. You put it on the bottom. Oh, I'm so sorry. If they didn't see it, they say, oh, it's on the top. And I say, oh, I'm so sorry. If they say it's in the middle, I say, well, it has to be somewhere, but sadly it's not there. They say, well, where is that ace? There's no ace at all. I brought security around. And I say, what are you saying? There's an ace on the bottom. There's an ace in the middle. There's an ace on the top. I'm the fairest person in the world. Wait, I saw 3 jokers and then 3 aces. How many cards are there? 1, 2, 3. That one's an ace, that one's a joker. Kevin, what's this one?
King of Hearts.
Okay. What do you think of that, Kevin?
That's good.
That's good. Kevin says it's good. So you could have named anything. Just remember, when someone's playing the 3-shell game with you, if the shells are moving, the pea's no longer there. I mean, that's we have to be aware that people are experts in playing these games. Again, all of these things that we're teaching you are going to prevent the random hacker from randomly getting you. If you do more, it will prevent the random hacker from targeting you. If you do a little more, it will prevent a person targeting you from getting you. But only if you're always constantly vigilant and aware of this can you be 99% secure.
And by the way, Paul's available to play poker games with you anytime you like.
That's right. or teach, come consult, or do an evaluation of your company, or do a show like this for your teams.
Yes. Use Paul for all those things. Consult, and he's available to give these presentations, even more in-depth presentations to you. And of course, anytime you want entertainment is a magic show, Paul's available both in person and does Zoom.
Zoom, that's right.
So remember, pauldraper.com.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.